yourself? When have you started to be seriously considering about the independent Scotland?
I mean, I think maybe, in actual fact, I could say that a key moment in this, because I was not, from the start, such a supporter of independence. But like a lot of other people, a key moment for me was when the British Finance Minister, George Osborne, came to Edinburgh and he said, you can't have the pound. And then all the other parties' finance ministers said, you can't have the pound. And in a way, I mean, I've always been interested in the referendum. But this may sound small-minded, but that really brought it home to me how the union works in the eyes of the Westminster government. That pound is ours and it is theirs. And they're now telling us, you can't have the pound. And for me and many people I know, that was a defining moment. That at that point, it really brought it home to me what this was about. And so, I do believe that this country can be better run if it's run locally. And that we're not controlled by London and the country is not run for the benefit of the City of London and the South East. But what really brought that home to me was Mr. Osborne and his tactics at that time. And I think, frankly, quite a lot of people feel much the same. And what he did was probably counterproductive for a lot of people. But Annie, you may have a less defensive view about
Mine was like, so originally I was no, just because everyone was no, you know, the media, and it really showed me how the media, now that I'm on the yes side, how the media is very anti-independence, because, you know, everyone was just no, you know, you were just being told it's stupid, whatever. So then I was like, oh no, definitely no. And then around September, so actually around this time last year, we went on that independence march. So because Dad had friends over. And before that, I'd started to really think about independence, because it struck me that one MP in Scotland, you know, is Conservative. So out of all 52 MPs? 59 MPs, one of them is Conservative, yet alone we're being governed by a Conservative government. And then I started to think, whoa, that does not make any sense, you know. That is not democracy at all, you know. We've not voted for this government who can then decide, you know, what they want to do on their welfare, what you want to do, like, with foreign affairs, immigrants, all these things, and we didn't vote for them. And then I think I started to think, you know, and then also nuclear weapons for me is, like, quite a big thing. So I just don't agree that a country that likes to think of itself as forward and whatever should have weapons of mass destruction, you know, living so close to people's homes as well. And I also think that, you know, we went into Iraq because we were saying, you know, Saddam Hussein, you have weapons of mass destruction. But Britain as a country, I feel, thinks of itself as too much of a high power. So, you know, Iraq, they're not allowed to have weapons of mass destruction, but no, Britain, yeah, we're absolutely fine. And to me, that just really makes me think, you know,
hypocrisy.
Yeah, you know, exactly, completely hypocritical. And that's like, that to me, I think, but also just seeing how we're not governing our country really, you know, if we're not voting for who is in power, then it's not really democracy. And I think that's what changed it for me.
そうスティーブの意見だともともとそれほど強烈な独立支持ではなかったんですが、ジョージ・オズボーンがスコットランドに来まして、でポンドの使用、独立後のポンドの使用を禁じる発言をしたんですが、でそれを聞いたときにポンドはその私たちのこう通貨ではないのか。でその発言にはどう考えてもそのポンドはその中央政府のものである、スコットランドのものではないという中央なんていうんでしょうね、中央集権的な考えがにじみ出ていました。でそれを聞いたときにやはりその自分たちのその判断っていうのはやっぱり自分たちでこう できるようにの動きのしたという動きにした方がいいのではないかと。で基本的に全ての利益、全ての全ての利益であるとか、全ての権限というのがあまりにも、ロンドンを中心とした中央政府に集められすぎているというふうに思います。でまた兄の方としては、もともと友達にも脳の人たちが多かったんですが、去年イエスキャンペーンのラリーにお父さんのお友達のイエスキャンペーンに参加したときにスコットランド政府の中に、コンサバティブ、保守党の代議士は1人しかいない。でこういう状態なのに全ての決断、外交について、移民について、また原子力武器の使用について全て中央政府で保守党によって決められている、こういうことの不自然さ、また例えばイラクにはその原子力爆弾の原子力の武器の使用を禁止しておきながら、自分たちが持っているこういう不公平さについて深く考えさせられるようになりました。でその結果、現在はイエスの方にを支持しています。
時間最後というと、独立に興味を持つというのは賛成反対によらずというか、興味を持ち始めた住民投票によって独立支持になったのか、それとも住民投票の前から、独立に対して支持をしていたのか、そのちょっとすみません、質問のあれがすみません、最後それだけお時間すみません。
The last question is that have you started to be interested in independence after the referendum has been announced, or you have been interested in the issue even before the referendum was officially announced?
Do you mean in favour of independence or interested in the debate?
ディベートにディベートというか話し合うことというか、独立そのものというよりはこのなんていうんでしょう、問題について、独立そのもの、独立することではなくその問題について興味を持ったのがということで理解してよろしいでしょうか。
そうですね。質問のコアは住民投票によって、独立に興味を持つようになったのか、それとも住民投票がなくても独立をしたかったのかっていうそのコアで。
So did you support independence even without the referendum this time, or
no. I mean, this has been all my life. The independence movement, and in some ways this shows the greed of the Scots, but started when North Sea oil came along, and people were saying, this is Scotland's oil, why don't we have it to ourselves? But I think it's interesting that didn't on its own appeal to me, and it didn't appeal to the Scottish people, that this was about, okay, now if we grabbed the oil we would be rich. That was not enough to make me or most Scottish people in favour of independence. And in fact, if it was all about the oil, we should have done it 40 years ago, because much of the oil has gone. We could. So at the start of this campaign, I was not sure which way I would vote. But I think Annie's arguments are the ones that, come home to you, is the fact that for most of my life, we have had very few Tory MPs in Scotland. But we have been ruled by Tories. And even then, and this applies to big parts of England, because you could say that the British economy is run for the good, is run for the City of London. and the financial markets.
100%.
So when I was young, most people in Scotland worked in shipyards or car factories or whatever. But since, you know, some of those jobs had to go because we couldn't compete. But also part of the reason why those jobs went was because we have run the economy for the good of the financial markets and the City of London. That applies to the English also. To many parts of England. But because we have a national identity, we can strike out on our own. So all of those arguments about the lack of democracy, who is a country being run for, became, to me, stronger during the campaign. You begin to feel them stronger. And that's why I say when Osborne came and told me I can't have the pound, it brought home to me that there's a man who I didn't vote for telling me I can't have the pound that has been my country's pound for all these years without even asking me. What, you know, there is an arrogance about it that has made people. And so I think, to be honest, if we vote for independence on Friday, on Thursday, but if the result is yes on Friday, there will be parts of me that are very sad, because I work with English people all the time. I have worked for the British government most of my life. There are many things about Britain which I love. But in the end, it's almost impossible to get change within the British system. And so I will feel sad and happy whichever way it goes. And almost obviously for someone of my age, this change, because I think there will be some years of hardship after a yes vote. I think, you know, it could be difficult for a few years. For someone of my age, it's not necessarily a good thing. But I think in the long run, it will be a good thing for us. Here's my speech.
Okay. そうですね。よくその独立運動について国会議連のことが持ち出されますが、これは基本的には私の興味の中心ではありません。っていうのはもし国会議連がその独立の理由のコアな部分であれば、その40年前にすでにそういう動きが起こって独立をされているべきでした。で、油田は現在枯渇に向かっていると思います。また保守党の政府についてですが、保守党がスコットランドではほとんど支持されていないにもかかわらず、イギリスの政府は長い間その保守党の政権というのが続いています。ニューレイバーの13年間以外はずっと保守党が政治の向きを決めてきました。そしてそれは全てロンドンを中心としたその、地域の利益になるものでした。で、スコットランドはかつては造船をはじめとした重工業に従事する人が多かったんですが、その産業が弱くなってきたのも全てそうしたそのロンドンを中心にしたその動きによるものでした。で、この独立運動を支持する独立運動が始まってからむしろやはり独立運動が始まり、その中央政府の意識が見えてくるにつれ、その独立運動を支持する気持ちが強くなりました。でも木曜日に独立するにしても独立しないにしても英国人と私は一緒に働いてきましたし、その英国政府のために働いてきましたから、どちらにしても私は悲しい気持ちになるには違いないと思いますし、私たちのような中年以上の人たちにとっては難しい苦しい時期が独立した際にはやってくると思います。でも長期的に見たら独立することはいいことだと私は信じています。That was very interesting.
Thank you for listening to us. It is also the first time in our lives that anyone's been so interested.
No, it's really interesting because to be honest, we are. I have no right to vote, and Johan is no voter. he's not really supporting the independence necessarily. But I think that altogether the opinion is the same. He doesn't think that the decision that Tory government make is no good. He doesn't like the sort of immigration policies and they are more closer to the States or China rather than EU is a bit of. They are only sort of thinking about the benefit, the financial benefit.
For the rich, not for the poor at all. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really frustrating, and the situation at the school is getting worse than when the Labour was in the power. I think since 2010 it's sort of the less money being paid and more children in the classroom and everything. It's basically the basic.
There is more to come.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's very senior in the British Department of Work and Pensions, and he says the cuts in the government budget that are still to come are massive. And you could have said that the cuts that have been made were needed because of the financial crisis, but the cuts they are planning to make in future are ideological. The Tory party wants to make
the rich.
Well, it wants that, but it also wants to shrink the state.
Yeah,
it wants to make government smaller, it wants to reduce taxes, and it wants to reduce benefits. Now that is a political decision. They're not, at the moment they're telling us they do this because it's necessary, because we were spending too much. But it's now becoming ideological, and it is about cutting taxes and spending less in the government.
Yeah, do you know what scares me?
And we wouldn't vote for that, Scotland.
No, you know what scares me, I think, as well? It's because people are like, we won't get another Tory government, and I don't think, I think that the polls, because Ed Miliband's not that popular, and I think if you get another Tory government, I just think that Britain, we seem like quite a fair country, but we are one of the most unequal societies in the first world, like in the developed countries in the world. We have the city of London, you have the bankers that are so rich, and you have all that, and then you have people who are going to food banks, the increase in food banks, and for me that's just so upsetting. I just think it's like, as a country we're meant to be, we look after each other, but this government, and also, to be honest, Labour, I think, is turning more into that as well. I think we're just doing what's best for the rich, and I just think that the whole way of running that country is so we in our country we shouldn't have people going to food banks, we shouldn't have people hungry, and I think that if we have another Tory government, I just think our country is going to keep splitting, and more people are going to be so rich, and more people are going to just be living on the complete breadline, and I think that's really sad.
ちょっと短くすると基本的にはもう本当に基本的にはイギリスは先進国の中でも特に階級社会の色合いに強く不公平がまかり通ってまして、実際にロンドンの方では景気がよく例えばシティですねニューヨークのウォールストリートみたいなあれなんですけども、では銀行関係者はどんどんお金持ちになっているにもかかわらず、他の地域はどんどん貧困が蔓延し続けている状態です。そういう状況で保守党が政権が倒れるだろうという声が多いですが、私はそうは思いません。というのは現在の労働党のを引率しているエド・ミリバンドには労働党がまた政権を取れるような裁量があるとは思わないからです。はい。Okay, but thank you so much.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It's a shame you don't have a vote. Tell your husband to think about it. Does he really want a country?
And only pictures